Okay. This regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order on Monday, March 14th, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Barb Mittman. Here. Steve Skaggs.
Here.
Sandy Eric. Here. Dane Nielsen.
Here.
Jason Sampson.
Here.
Brian Hanson.
Okay, first item is approval of the agenda.
Second.
Dan and Grayson, any discussion? Seeing none, council please vote. Okay, that is approved. Takes us into public hearings. There are several of them. The first one is for general obligation urban renewal loan agreement for the field house. So we'll open the public hearing on the proposal to enter into a general obligation urban renewal loan agreement. Is it, Karen, did we receive any comments?
No comments.
Is there anyone here to speak in the public hearing regarding the field house loan agreement? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, move into resolution number 64, 2021-2022, a resolution taking additional action on proposal to enter into general obligation urban renewal loan agreement and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jason and Sandy. Discussion. Seeing none, council please vote. Okay, that is approved. Takes us into public hearing B, wastewater treatment facility phase 4 trunk sewer line. The public hearing to review an application for state revolving fund loan and contents of an environmental information document in the city's project plan, to discuss the proposed plan, actual costs and user fees associated with the project, and address any citizen concerns, if any, with the plan. And Karen, did you receive any comment?
No.
Is there anyone here to speak in the public hearing about the wastewater trunk sewer line project? And we'll close the public hearing, move into C, which is public hearing for the field house project 2022. So we'll open the public hearing on proposed plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the field house 2022 project. And Karen, did we receive comment for that?
No comments.
Is there anyone here to speak in the public hearing regarding the field house project? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Move to resolution number 65, 2021-2022. Resolution finally approving and confirming plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the field house project 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Dane and Barb, any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, council please vote. That was approved, which takes us into consideration of bids for Fieldhouse Project 2022, which comes with resolution number 66, 2021-2022, resolution awarding contract for Fieldhouse Project 2022.
You need a motion. Move to approve.
Second. Okay, Sandy and Jason, or Steve.
Yeah.
Discussion. Okay, seeing none, council please vote. Okay, that is approved. And I'll take a second to thank literally hundreds of people in the community that have worked very hard to get us to this point. So thank you for everyone that's been involved in the project. So we will move on to equipment bid for field house for Parks and Recreation Department.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Barb and Steve, any discussion on the equipment bid? Seeing none, council, please vote. That is approved, which takes us to the consent agenda. Any item may be removed for separate consideration.
Move to approve. Second.
Dane and Jason, any discussion? Seeing none, council, please vote.
The consent agenda is not there.
Okay,
So I'm going to take a roll call. Nielsen,
Aye.
Sampson,
Aye.
Skaggs,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Pittman,
Aye.
okay, so that is approved, which takes us to the public forum, which is time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. Is there anyone here to speak in the public forum this evening?
I got something to say really quick.
Okay, yeah, we'll have you go up there.
I'm just lying, I live in Nevada. And I got questions like this, dump for the city, you know, for the West dump place, and everything. They've been asking me, you know, how is it going? If you're gonna get a dump place or not, and they like to want to have an answer. There's a couple been asking me about that. You know, the survey I gave you the papers. Have you looked them over and looked at the people? There's a couple of them have been asked and like to have a dump place and they won't answer.
I'll have staff speak to that.
I have reviewed that, and thank you for sending that over to us. We're still waiting on a couple of things from the city of Ames, because that is something that Jeremy, the Public Works Director, and I have been working on to see if there is some sort of a joint action that we can do together. That would be halfway between Ames and Nevada, because Ames is kind of running out of space, and we really, as of right now, we really don't have the space for it as well. So we're trying to figure out different locations as well.
Well, what about that old one we did have a space for?
The old one?
The old one, because
Yep.
that was a big area and I mean, that was just perfect and stuff to have a dump place there.
Yeah, and I'm not really familiar too much with the old dump site, but I could possibly reach out to the family that I think runs it and see if they'd be interested. But that is no longer the city's land, so we can't bring that back in and utilize that part of it again. So we'd have to check with that family or corporation that owns it.
Now, how much would this cost? Like if we get one in Nevada, how much would that cost? Because last time, police officer asking me, saying that I have to get a permit.
So the costs, I don't know that right off the top of my head, but if we had a dump site, we would have to have several different things. We either have to have cameras for evening hours, and we'd also have to have people that staff it during the main hours for it to be open so we could watch it. So I'd have to do some figures about that to see how much that would actually cost.
Yeah, I think a good hours be like from 10 to 9. Be good hours for it. So that's my question I got to ask, because people's asking me, you know, and wondering, and so I'll just tell them I talk to you and hopefully get a solution solved quick. Because it'd be nice, it'll be open in the spring and the summer and fall, and then close it during the winter, like the first day when, then close it up. So,
It's just with timelines, I don't know that anything's going to be ready this spring.
Yeah, I can't guarantee anything will be ready this spring, but we are still trying to work on it and figure out a solution. So thank you for bringing that up to us. Appreciate
because, you
it.
know, people have been asking me, and I said, I don't know, and that's how I talked to them and stuff, and yes, hopefully we get a dump place in Nevada.
I think at this point, it's just determining options. One of the other options that had been discussed in the past is maybe by the new wastewater plant when that's done, but that's not online yet because there's a lot of ground out there.
Yeah. Be nice if we get one.
Thanks, Lee. Is there anyone else here to speak in the public forum? Then we will move on and close the public forum and move into old business. There's approved pay request number 9 for wastewater treatment facility phase 2 project from Williams Brothers in the amount of $381,163.59.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jason and Sandy. Seeing no discussion, council please vote. Okay, that is approved. Takes us to old business B, resolution number 68, 2021-2022, resolution adopting duplication of benefits policies and procedures.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Steve and Barb. Seeing no discussion, council please vote. That is approved. Takes us to new business. We have streetscape recommendations from Main Street Design Committee.
Good evening, Council. I'm pleased to introduce, I guess, the design committee to you all tonight. They've been putting in countless volunteer hours, putting together this recommendation that's before you tonight. They've done a lot of studies, reaching out to communities, putting this together, and I think they've had fun doing it, or at least that's what they've told me. So tonight we have a PowerPoint that they put together along with the recommendation before you, the print copy. And so I'll go ahead and hand it over to our design committee.
All right, thank you all for this opportunity to share out what we've been busy working on. To start off with, and see if I can get the clicker to work
Is it
here.
working? Did it make it go? I didn't know how it would work where I'm sharing my screen so that Zoom can see it too,
It still should.
but maybe it won't work.
Are you able to advance the slides? Oh, she's good. There we go. Thank you. First, we just wanted to just remind everyone, well, first, thank you to the city and to the council. Main Street Nevada really appreciates the collaborative conversations we've had as we start embarking on, making our downtown and our Main Street district a better place and looking to our future. So first and foremost, thank you for this opportunity for continued collaboration. For those not as familiar with the Main Street Nevada mission, we wanted to share with you that it is our mission to preserve and grow downtown as a business center for the community. This is all about community, drawing people downtown for business, shopping, and of course, fun. We want to be the place to be and the place to come and visit and to stay. Secondly, our mission is to maintain and preserve historic buildings. We just have a treasure trove of just wonderful historic buildings. People know us for our very eclectic group of buildings down here. And so our group in particular, the design committee, takes that to heart and really trying to preserve that. And also we want to create a community-friendly atmosphere downtown. We want it to be vibrant. We want it to be fun. We want our families to stay and gather and really make this a place. So our group in particular, under the Main Street format, has purview over a few key places. And so starting in the fall of last year, we were asked to share some ideas about where we saw Jordan had approached us and said, really, what's your vision for our downtown, our Main Street community as a group and as we saw that moving ahead here. And so we wanted to take the time ourselves to do some visioning as a committee. So under the design committee, under Main Street, Iowa, we have purview over public spaces, improvements, design education, some level of enforcement. We understand that there's other things that happen in the code and zoning and all of that. We're not here. We're here to enforce that and make sure that people are educated about that. And then also about placemaking. So in our process, what we've done is we've gone through a 4-step visioning session that's lasted these last several months here, and we're here to share out the findings of that. Our session 1 was analysis of our current state. So that was just us sitting down and talking about, here's where we're at. We know we have opportunities for growth. We know we have some challenges, and really just putting everything on the table and having open and honest conversations about where we're at. Second, our second session was about creating a vision for our future. And while it contained some Play-Doh and some pipe cleaners and some fun activities along the way, it really challenged us to think about how we would define ourselves as a community and what kind of steps we might take to implement that into the future. And session 3 was about testing the outcomes. So once we had those ideas on the table, we really wanted to vet those out to be able to streamline and present to you kind of the best of the best ideas that came to the forefront. And then session 4 was about refinement. And so really tonight is about sharing with you some of those refined designs and the development of those. And I'm sorry, I got one more slide to go through here. Our top 10 findings then out of this. I won't read through all of these, but did want to share with you that we're going to focus this evening about items 1, 2, 4, and 8. So really thinking about the way that our Main Street district is going to change over time, and maybe in the short term and in the long term, thinking about instead of always coming in on 6th Street, we're going to see some new activity running east and west on Lincoln Way, and what we can do to prepare for that and to really embrace that. The next item would be just thinking about the signage and getting people in and through our community, not only in our Main Street district, but also in other locations in the city to get them to our places of business to help support that. And then also how to make it a great space. All of the streetscape or all of the work that's been done with improving the streets has been wonderful, and everyone is very appreciative of that. And you can really feel the energy that started to create in our downtown district. But now there's that other level of the stuff that, really gives it a people scale that makes it really walkable and a place that you want to hang out and things like that. So we're going to touch base on those items this evening for you, and any of the rest of the 10 we'd be happy to come back and talk about some other time. I'll turn it over to Brooke. Oh yeah. There you go.
So during one of our visioning sessions, we toured our Main Street. We also toured a couple of other communities. While we were walking down our Main Street, we noted our strengths, our weaknesses, and we posed the question of, why should I turn? Why should somebody turn off and go down to our Main Street, and what can we do to get people to turn? So these documents kind of show what we found. Signage is a big point there. Planters as well. So this just kind of gives a visual to what we want to focus on and our priorities for Main Street.
So we looked at, the existing signage. We looked at Highway 30 and what kind of signage is out there to bring people into the community. There are green and white signs that direct you to the fairgrounds, the business district, Central Elementary. There's a little square with an H on it. That's the universal symbol for the hospital. And then there are these blue and white logo signs, and I misidentified them in your packet as Todd signs. But the business buys, manufactures the sign, and then they pay the DOT an annual fee to have those up. So you need a set of 2 going either direction. And those start out with a lodging, which has budget in on it, food, which has McDonald's on it, and gas, which has Good and Quick on it. So Good and Quick isn't exactly where you would see it when you get off the exit. So there's another sign there that's an additional fee per year. And then as you travel up 19th Street, there's another sign called a Trailblazer that tells you to turn down Lincoln Way to get to Good and Quick. And that is up to the approval of the city to install that sign, but manufactured by the business. So that is how we're proposing that we still direct people into Nevadas off 19th Street. So at the corner of 19th and Lincoln Way, you can see there's a picture of the Good and Quick sign there, directing down Lincoln Way, but there's also some church signs there. There's church signs over by the co-op. There's other directional signs within the community, and those are in your packet. So then we looked at our entrances. Like we said, it probably will go to an east-west rather than north-south. So we looked at the 19th Street and Lincoln Way, where I said that Good and Quick and those church signs are at that intersection as being one of our entrances to Nevada. And then on the other side, we looked at by the old Adams Cycle location. There's a billboard there now. And we like the look of other communities where they had the metal cut out, they used some color, they used some stonework at the bottom. And so we wanted to kind of use that. So we do have a mock-up of what we would put there on the west side of Nevada. Then we also made a map of where we would put the other wayfinding signs and identify those areas as well as the Main Street area. And that whole list is in your packet. We looked at other cities and got some ideas of how they did their wayfinding sign, whether it be on the street or downtown. And so we have like a little combination that we'll show you later. We did like the idea of some sort of shape on the sign. And so the middle picture there is in Jefferson with their Mahaney Bell Tower on it. So we wanted to kind of use that same style for us. Go ahead, Karen. So this is our inspiration, is this turret on this building. And Brooke was kind enough to make some sketches of what it could be. We could put that on the signs directing people to the Main Street. We could put it on the signs in the actual Main Street. So that's what we think Nevada says to us, is that really great building there on that corner.
So as Carrie kind of mentioned, part of our job is also the restoration of the kind of historic character. And one thing that our committee feels is letting our historic characters speak. So in terms of defining an area, in terms of what these kind of signages and things, we don't want to overwhelm the beauty of what's already in place. And part of it is helping building owners make their buildings speak. So we want to kind of keep it minimalist, if you will, in terms of what we want to put in or add in. So black, as a base being a kind of prominent color, and then little splashes of these tones that are present in the Main Street logo, just here and there to kind of liven things up, but not, overwhelm what's already the beautiful buildings that are there. You can go to the next slide. Same thing with the font, readable, kind of, what's the word you wanted to use? Humanistic, but lively, I don't know what else to say. Basically like this font. Next one. There's a mock-up of what a signage could look like downtown with the kind of tasteful on the black, just denoting the historic district with that font. And next slide. Oh, that's not in my pocket. Oh, these are I don't know what to say. This is what it could look like. So there's a little splash to the side on the splashes of the color on the sides with the black, just kind of orienting people, directing people around to things downtown. Next. Next slide. There it is. So again, in the same vein, not overwhelming. We like these simple, keeping it wood, keeping it metal, just, basic design, and really kind of hopeful that we have artisans and people in our community that can perhaps build these things for us, not something that we need to order from X place and bring in.
I think I know a carpenter.
Yeah, I think we know a couple of carpenters, exactly. You're asked to hold this V-shaped one in your mind as we move ahead. So go ahead and do that. Planters, the thriller, spiller, filler model of planting. I think a key thing with this is always who's going to take care of the plants. So that's a something to figure out moving forward. But plants and tied with some other things that we'll move into. One thing we really noticed is the downtown's just, it's in the summertime, it's really hot. It's just this wall of concrete. How do we break this up? How do we bring in some shade? How do we bring in some green? And so planners are going to be key in that, as well as some things as we move into the next slides. Here again is the cut metal, the wood, the color behind. I like that middle one a lot with the cutout metal and the color behind. Just little splashes here and there, but not overwhelming. Next slide. Here is an example of these in Sioux Falls. Yes, so a restaurant, I believe, up there had these as just a pull down. Again, would it be exactly this? Not necessarily, but how do we bring in some shade? How do we cool? How do we make it an inviting space for people to come and gather and spend time? Next. And then this, which you can't see on the TVs, would just be a proposed placing of benches, planters, etc. That little V-shaped one I asked you to hold in your mind earlier. And again, we're not like bringing a final proposal to you, but what we've in our talking, we kind of identified, K and 6 as the kind of center. That's the kind of heart of downtown, and how do we kind of increase and encourage or create a space for people to gather there? One proposal with that kind of V-shaped thing would be to, use part of the street to kind of create a space. I don't know if you saw one thing we talked about during the pandemic in New York, is you had restaurants building basically outdoor seating and more than just some chairs on the sidewalk, but at least kind of more elaborate things to create a space for people to spend time and to gather. We don't really have good green spaces downtown, except for right here in front of City Hall, which is kind of on the edge, and over across from the post office. So how do we kind of create spaces for people to gather? That's a big question, and one way we could potentially do that.
Where are the black circles on that, John?
The black circle.
Trash can.
Trash cans.
Okay, thank you.
One more slide, yeah.
One more?
So I am just supposed to talk about the importance of the historic character of downtown. Back in 2000, the volunteers working with the Historic Preservation Commission succeeded in downtown listed on that register. And without that, we would not be eligible to be a Main Street community. So that was just one of the building blocks that was put in place. Being on the National Register also opens the doors to some finance that's important. My project, by Nevada being a Main Street community, opened the door to these challenge grants and these the Catalyst grant. So those, as you know, 3 $100,000 grants, and the city has matched those. So it's a pretty substantial infusion of capital coming into downtown, into the buildings, on account of, I would say, based on and intended to enhance the historic character of downtown. With my project, I am going to go after, I'll say, a second bite at the apple. We're going after historic tax credits. We just got the step 1 tax credit application to our house today. We'll submit it tomorrow with some minor corrections. those tax credits are substantial. I'll back up just a little. My building is 3,700 square feet, main level and lower level. If you multiply that times $120 a square foot to build out a full rehab, that gets you up above $400,000. We had the building appraised as improved. The appraisal came back about $285,000. So, you get in this, am I going to put $400,000 into a project to wind up with a $285,000 building? Maybe not. That's where these grants just really become pivotal, especially at the point where we are now. Maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, things will look different. But right now, we're trying to build some momentum. I'm going then for historic tax credits. And I expect we'll be able to get them. We'll have to jump through some hoops. We'll have to do things. We'll have to be very careful to preserve the character of the building. I'll just say that. We have to satisfy the State Historic Preservation Office that we're doing so. But as we do that, and as we conclude our improvements and get the state to sign off, they will issue tax credits, and those will be in the same range as the grants and the money from the city. It's a percentage of the qualified expenses, so I really don't know. I don't have a dollar amount, but they are significant. They will total 45% of eligible expenditures. So that's another substantial infusion of capital that I think, especially here, we're on the front end of this development process, will really help to get the wheels turning. So as we went through all of this, I just recalled some preservation battles that I have been involved with in the past, and some of the fears and skepticism that have met this idea of restoring downtown buildings. And it comes down to property owners' concern about their property rights being respected. And with that in mind, I kind of sent a memo out to the committee, and they have kind of appended it onto this report. I'll highlight it here for you. We want to stress that individual property owners are free to define the physical appearance of their property within safety and hygiene and use limits. The Nevada Main Street Design Committee offers these recommendations. We recommend that properties be maintained in good repair. We recommend that property owners make buildings as attractive as possible and inviting. And then for property owners and managers who undertake alterations to storefronts or public areas, we offer advice during the planning phase of any project. As I've mentioned, the downtown buildings comprise a nationally recognized historic district, and the buildings are listed together as a group on the National Register of Historic Places. They're bronze plaques on the north end and the south end of it. And this recognition enhances the value of downtown buildings. in many ways. I've mentioned the grants and the tax incentives, and other grants are available for downtown properties. We are committed as the design committee to assisting property owners with information and referrals and with possible, when possible, with volunteer assistance. I want to stress, building owners are free to make alterations to their property without regulation by Main Street, Nevada. Main Street, Nevada stands ready to advise, assist, and consult with in any way that we can.
First, I'd like to thank the design committee for putting this together. I know it's been quite the undertaking. So, and then I'd also like to thank the council for having us present tonight and present this recommendation before you.
Thank you all for your work on that. I think it's very well done and really helpful as we move forward. I'm excited for the work Main Street's done with our downtown. It's something I think we're all passionate about. So council, anything for Main Street?
Why didn't Brandon have to talk?
We all know the reason why.
Hey, John, nice of you to not wear shorts. I've never seen you without shorts.
I even put this on.
I really kind of was hoping for the shorts, but you know.
Next time.
So then as far as next steps in getting some of those amenities done downtown, is that something that we'll have staff coordinate with the committee on?
There are, future steps forward, and I think that's something that, with your guys's, I guess, acceptance of this recommendation, we can move forward and kind of look at things and what next steps are. Some of these will be different, I guess, different groups and different between the city and Main Street leading the initiative. So I think it'll just be partnering to look at next steps.
Very good. Karen, do you know, do we need to, and Aaron's online too, do we need to accept any of this, or is it more for council
I
information?
think it'd be nice if you just made a motion, simple motion, just to approve their design and move forward.
Motion to accept the recommendations.
Second. Steve, Barb, discussion. Seeing none, council, please vote. And that is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Henry, and the committee.
Thanks, everyone.
I like the passion.
Yeah. Nice work.
New business B is resolution number 69, 2021-2022. Resolution declaring intent to provide economic development support to development property at 1521 South G Avenue.
Ryan is here to speak if he wants to. I don't know if you want to, but this is the project that I was referring to about the hotel conversion into LMI housing. So this is a project that he came to us about and was talking about it, and really it kind of came down to a few things pertaining to the units themselves, and fortunately we were able to make all that work for him. So if you guys had any questions for you, I think he'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Absolutely. My name's Ryan Wiederson from West Des Moines. Did approach Jordan in the city about the project, converting the hotel to studio apartments. Staff's been really good. It's actually been probably the least painful process I've ever been through with the city. So, and I'm saying a lot. So I appreciate the support from city staff and the council on the project. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
What's your timeline?
We'll start on final design elements here in the next 2 weeks. And then we'll probably start on construction within 3 weeks. That's not going to take very long, probably maybe 5 to 6 weeks maximum. Kind of depends on supply of material, but barring that, it should be a fairly quick process.
How many units will be created?
I'll be 35 units will be converted. There's a manager's apartment in that building right now that the current owner manager. Full-time thing, but we do want to have somebody on site for that project. So we'll at least get one new resident out of it. Anything else?
Now we can entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
Dane, Sandy, further discussion? Seeing none, council, please vote. Okay, that's approved. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, that moves us into report, starting with city administrator.
All right, so some of the things that discussed last week, we went into a foundation meeting, Main Street meeting, Pizza Palooza, which we'll be meeting with that on a weekly basis until it happens. We did have community coffee. It was a little light this week, but still a good turnout and had some good questions there. And also the US 30 interchange discussion got brought back up, and we're talking with some certain people at the DOT to see if we can move forward with that. I'll let Barb talk more about the human services and the crop walk, but we had some meetings pertaining to that as well.
Anything for Jordan? Okay. Also, yeah, for my report, most of it's would be duplicative. As far as Pizza Palooza goes, there were a couple meetings last week specifically focused on making sure all the Main Street businesses are well in the loop regarding it. And so I think there's been a lot of conversation there, and several committee members have visited with everybody downtown at least once. So hopefully that will be in a positive way. So I want to make sure council was aware of that in case you get approached. Otherwise, yeah, I'll let Barb report on human services, and Jordan took other things I was privy to. So anything, oh, it's good. Anything for me? Okay, human services.
Yes, that's my cue twice over. We've been taking some time to reflect on how public money can be used to support private nonprofits to benefit the common good of folks in the community. And we have not ever had a form, for lack of a better word, a means by which folks could apply for these funds, more like a grant. And so we've paid attention to the Story County Foundation and some of the things they do. Looked at an example from the Dubuque County Foundation, and started just to put together something that will make it easier for folks to talk about their agency or their group as a whole, and then a specific project that could benefit folks in the community related to basic human needs. So we're talking about food, shelter, clothing. And so some of the obvious folks that are working in those areas come to mind, but there are yet others, and especially the uniqueness of how Nevada is the county seat and Ames is the collective majority. So some of the offices of some of the main nonprofits originate in Ames, and this instrument will allow folks to be very specific about how their outreach is to the Nevada community, and how then allows us to make decisions that support both our citizens and the work of the nonprofits. So I think we'll soon be coming back for something to this group. I don't know exactly what that next step is. Jordan and I are meeting in the morning. The other piece, I guess, I've been prompted, I was invited to call together folks to talk about a crop walk, which would be a hunger That would be one of the food categories. And the crop, we haven't had a local crop walk since 2017. And that history in Story County is more than 50 years old. Crop walk is an opportunity for local folks to impact hunger both locally but also globally with their feet and getting pledges and walking and doing some fun stuff. This is the 75th anniversary of a friendship train that came to Ames with food. And that was the first thing that kind of triggered Church World Service, for those of you that are familiar with that nonprofit, and then eventually Crop Walk. So we're in the position to kind of celebrate this friendship train and the importance of food to residents of Story County when times are tough. And so we were invited to see invited by the folks from Ames that have kept their walk going even through COVID virtually and as a hybrid most recently, to see if they could engage our side of the county because we've kind of been AWOL since 2017. And so that's provoked, we had a great meeting last Tuesday. Folks that were part of that even 5 years or more ago are excited about that. We're excited about, there are some actual photographs of the crowd waiting for the train from 75 years ago. There's some little people on shoulders. It might just be fun. It'd just be a riot if we could figure out, if somebody could recognize somebody. That would be great. So we're aiming for something the second Sunday afternoon. And we're going to invite the Eastern Story County folks to come and participate here. Simultaneously, there'll be a walk happening at Brookside, and we'll kind of get everything together. And then 25% of the funds that are raised here would stay here. And then we're going to be looking for a local match for the local money so that we can even do more. So more to come, but folks are excited about it. There's a lot of creative ways to get people on their feet. And if it would rain some, we might actually do it out at the lake. There is a lake out there someplace, right? That trail would be just perfect. And that would really put us closer to some of the other Eastern Story County folks. And there are food banks in every single one of those Eastern Story County communities. And they also have a school pantry at Colonesco, just like we have Cubbies. So there are folks that see the need. Let's try to get some funds together to help them out. So it's on the way.
Thank you for working on those things, Barb. Other council reports? Okay, then we will move to the back. Let's see, we have police department.
Start up with staffing. Earlier in the year, we swore in Matt Martison for a part-time officer. He is now done with the little bit of training that we had for him, so he's filling in as he can, along with Ryan Hutton. And we have two that are about ready to complete, or they're moving into the shadow phase of field training. So Officer Dix and Officer Walliser. There's probably about 4 more weeks of training, and we think that they were going to be getting out on their own on time. And we'll be moving our schedule back to the contracted schedule of 10 hours so that we can get back in that normal rotation. We are in the middle of the hiring process right now. The two that we've selected, they are completing or have completed their polygraphs, so we're waiting on those. And I believe the next academy class is the end of August, so they'll be in the fall academy. May will be the next academy class. So hopefully we can get everything done, get everything completed, and and it's only one spot, so then we'll be full staff on paper. And then they'll start in May and they'll graduate end of August. And then they'll start their 14-week training, field training here. So We did have, on March 5th, I conducted alcohol compliance checks. And we checked 10 businesses that have licenses for beer, liquor, and wine. And one did fail. They weren't in compliance. It was Lincoln Tap. And so the bartender was issued a citation as well as the license holder. And I had reached out to ABD due to some concerns with Lincoln Tap. And so myself and the investigator went out there on March 7th and he did a routine inspection and the citation to the license holder was issued. And there were some issues during the inspection. He had till today to reach out to the investigator to kind of see where he was on his progress with some of the issues that were addressed. So hopefully that can resolve itself and kind of get back to being compliant. We will this year can probably do about maybe 2 more compliance checks just to do some follow-up. So and then the other alcohol related issue with the Mosmart, just the one, I believe it was 736 Lincoln, the one at 8th and Lincoln. One of the managers had hired out a third-party recycling company to recycle the glass and aluminum and put them in containers and then take them away. Well, the containers never got picked up, so there was alcohol left in these containers. And so, again, ABD got involved, which is the alcohol beverage division for the state of Iowa. And so they're opening an investigation. We've talked with Aaron about it. And I think one of the ordinances does fit on the distribution and possession of it. And also too, there might be some health related issues on how it was disposed and just kind of left out because there's some glass and what have you. And it's 3-year-old alcohol. So we're addressing those issues. I talked with Director Martinez, and I think a citation will be issued here shortly once we speak with the owners and the manager who was responsible for it and figure out who the third-party recycler was. Everything's been resolved and picked up, so there's no more alcohol just laying around. So it's kind of where we're at on those. So, any questions?
Council, anything for Josh? Yeah. We'll go back over to economic development. Do you have anything, Brenda?
Good evening, all. It's been busy. The spring brings always lots of interest in housing and other interest, commercial and industrial. So excited for the activity. Just wanted to extend a verbal invitation. You'll be getting a formal invitation to the Business Appreciation Breakfast on April 27th, bright and early at 7 a.m. at Farm Grounds. So again, I know everybody's busy and it's sometimes nice to have a date on your calendar, even though you haven't been officially invited. So I'll stay around tonight and as you move into your work session, in case there's some questions regarding the rental information we put together.
Thanks, Brenda. Henry, do you have anything you want to update?
Later this month, we'll be having a visit from Kathy LaPlante, who is a representative of Main Street America. And she is doing, they try to visit every Main Street location, alternating years. They took half and half of the Main Streets. So we'll be hosting her here at the end of the month and taking her around the district. And we've reached out to a few groups here to be represented there and meeting with her. But just an exciting opportunity to share with what we're doing and share that on a national scale.
Planning and zoning. Thumbs up. Fire. Not going to give a go Hawks or anything to us, right? Okay, Parks and Rec.
I just want to extend our appreciation and gratitude for your support of the Fieldhouse project. This has been a long time coming. So this is a big deal, and we appreciate your support. If I start to try and name everybody, I'm going to forget people, but I do want to thank Jeff Harris and his crew at RMH. They've been good to work with and lead us through this process. And Rhonda's sitting in the back, and she has been deeply involved in this process, as well as, all the donors and the foundation. So again, just thank you for your support. If you have questions as we go through this process coming up over the next 500 and some days, please reach out and we'll be happy to try and answer as best we can. So thank you.
I did see that Brian Hansen is watching online, and he did put in a comment that he also thanks everyone. So taking time out of his vacation to keep up with our meeting.
Yep, good.
Okay, Karen.
Next meeting will be our budget approval, so be thankful for that. Another season over. And the Great Western Bank, I don't know if you all heard, has sold, and so they'll be changing their name, and we've been getting some letters on the process and how it goes from here, but we'll be doing some changing there. And we still are looking for Historic Preservation Commission. We have one opening on that. So if you know anybody
Some good
interested.
folks in the room that might want to think about applying for Historic Preservation Commission.
That's all I have.
The application is on the city website. Larry.
Well, first of all, it's good to be back in Iowa, and it's been about 3 months since the last council meeting I attended, but I've been tuned in. You have a full report on the projects that H.R. Green are involved in the beta. And the only thing I would add is that for the 2022 street improvements project, we will have the pre-construction meeting next Wednesday on the 23rd that morning, at which time we will more define when the project is to begin. When I talked to the contractor last week, the indication was it'll either be in the spring or later summer, and definitely not in the middle there. They have a very large project that they'll be doing then. They were to determine their schedules, at least refine them a little bit this past week. So we'll know more next week, and we'll let you know what's going on there. We do have right after that, within a couple of weeks, we'll schedule a public information meeting for all the residents that are affected by those 3 projects. So we'll have a better handle on what and where the projects will be and how it'll affect them. So with that, I'd take any questions you might have. You said that projects are going to be done either in the spring or in the fall? That's what I was told. In the summertime when all the school is out and it's a lot easier to It won't. close down roads and. It would have been nice, but the indication is they will not be doing it in and the street reconstruction together. And then S14 will be a separate project so that not everything is tore up at one time. But we'll keep you informed.
Okay. Anything else for Larry? Aaron, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, it does. Very
Nope,
interesting.
I don't have anything this evening, but thank you for the flexibility in allowing me to participate via Zoom.
What it's there for. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? And for those who are interested, we do have a workshop after we officially adjourn to go over ordinance changes and collect further public comment on that. So anything else before adjournment, though?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Dane and Jason, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Okay, then we'll transition to the workshop here in a couple minutes. Thank you all for coming too.
I think I know what I'm doing on the scale. I
have no.
There wasn't a PowerPoint.
Okay,
I'll probably be by tomorrow.
so we'll start with the work session. There were 3 different code sections in particular I think we're going to look at, but I'll hand it over to Jordan to walk through what those are. And then we also do have public comment and some of those sections.
So I did notice, like Brett said, we have a public comment section. We can discuss the mobile food vendors first, if that's what.
Whatever's gonna work, Rick.
Yeah, that works. We can discuss that first.
Wanted to listen to your guys' discussion and maybe try in if I can.
Okay.
Yeah, if you get to points that you have feedback, we'll have you go over by that microphone there just so that it can get picked up on the online.
Have you seen the current one that we have?
Yeah,
Okay,
and the first one and the revised one she sent.
okay, perfect.
I sent you guys a bunch of notes on that first one, so good.
Okay, that was you. All right.
They're
sweet.
on that. The agenda with links. If you scroll further to the bottom, I put links for all of them. You can click on them and they'll open up the code, or they'll open up the food truck, or you can open up you see them clear at the
Yep.
bottom?
Got it.
I downloaded them, so. it's-
It's the bottom of the vendor.
Okay, so mobile vendors, got it. Oh, control.
Yes. Link.
So as of right now, I think we have, for the most part, everything updated the way we all kind of discussed previously. Ray, are you okay with the way everything is?
Yeah, I think it answers a lot of his questions as well. So
Okay. Did you have any more concerns or any suggestions that you? Yeah, please. Just so we can hear. The public can hear as well.
you don't say I talk quiet.
Yeah, just had a few questions, in that revised section. The city license, it doesn't really, it says you can operate in the city on public grounds, but the whole permission thing is a little bit really vague. You know, I've had several conversations with Karen and, of how that is going to work. I do homemade ice cream. I have a vending trailer for that. You'll see me up here for the Pizza Pipe Palooza thing. Square Park would be an amazing venue if I could get, not near the building at all, but on the clear and far end of that parking lot of that, occasionally set up there would be amazing. But it's not in that document of how somebody would go about getting permissions or if there's any off-limits areas.
Okay.
As people are trying to plan food vending.
So add some sort of contact information so people would be able to reach out to us when they want to.
And if it's separate for different areas of town.
Like Parks and Rec would be Tim and.
Okay, gotcha.
Here and, if he wants to set up out here in the parking lot here. You have to talk.
Also, what kind of notices.
Yeah.
Needs to happen because there's also a section in there about submitting a map of the area. Well, is that a map of the Nevada or
I think map of where you anticipate setting up and just kind of how your setup's gonna look once you're set up.
Map of location where the vendor will operate the mobile food unit is what it says.
Yep.
Pretty explicit.
I couldn't hear.
I just read it up. Map of the location where the vendor will operate the mobile food unit.
Yeah. And is that going to be each and every type? Mobile food is kind of a
mobile thing.
It's fluid on, dates and times.
And on public though, right?
Yeah.
It's only when you're on public land.
Yeah, it's only on public, so.
On somebody's private land, Dairy Queen, if you're over on Dairy Queen's parking lot, you don't have to submit anything.
Yeah, you just have to reach out to the owner.
Still have to have the license. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a little bit similar to Ames, but okay. Because the Ames one is you don't have to have it at all if you're on private ground.
Right.
So you don't have to have anything with the city. So I'm just trying to understand what you guys are getting together for here. So.
We want to make the process simple, but we also want to make sure it's safe for everybody else that's going to enjoy the activity or the food or whatever is going to be there. And that's really the main purpose of it. So, and this is all new for us, so we're really trying to figure out how to do it and what to do and what not to do and stuff. So your questions really came in handy last council meeting. So thank you for sending that to us.
Yeah, and with the trend of food trucks, I mean, yeah, you got some that look like roach motels, but there's a lot of really good ones in the area that could really bring a lot of folks into the town. So it could be very good for you guys. Did you guys have any thoughts on fees yet? You guys discussed that at all?
Go ahead. Just talk.
Jordan, while he's doing that, is Dairy Queen an example? Dairy Queen may be a bad example because under D.
Yes, a vacant lot.
D2 is a vacant, it says no mobile food unit may be located on a vacant lot or a lot with a vacant building.
Yeah, he was just using that as an example,
Okay.
but that would be
I'm not
vacant.
going
So
any farther, so we have 15 people sitting there when we really.
yeah, so like
There.
like
That
good
makes you
and
wanna
quick.
get it.
Midwest Insurance. Or Midwest Insurance. You just have to get the permission from Midwest Insurance.
Or Jackson.
Whoever, yeah.
Or Jackson.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
So I think one of the things we talked about with the fee was to not have a city fee and a fire inspection fee and fee people to death. So we were looking at last rendition of doing our current fee in the code for an inspection is $50, but that would be subject to the council's approval. But we're certainly not looking to get rich off of food truck inspections, but still there needs to be some moderate fee for time and effort and compliance. And that's really your license when that takes place.
Do you feel that $50 is reasonable for
For just the fire or just for the whole thing?
For the whole thing.
basically the whole thing?
For the
Yeah.
whole thing, 50 is great. Yeah.
'Cause like Ray said, we're not trying to make
Yeah,
make
exactly.
money off it. We just want to make sure it's safe for
Yep,
everybody.
it's you put some money in, that's fine. Yeah, that's perfect.
And that's an annual fee.
Yep, yep, that'd be great.
Yep, and this is the city attorney, just for clarification, we've actually removed that whole license piece and it's just the inspection fee.
Because you're already getting a license through the state, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah. So as long as you have the license through the state, all you have to do is come and make sure and get a fire inspection, and then you're good to go.
Well, yeah, fill out that whole application.
Correct. Yep. Yep. Yes, and that, but
So you'll have the certificate of compliance once the inspection's been completed.
Okay.
I'll give that to you. Fire inspection has been completed.
I'm reading that.
Not the quibble, but.
No, I get it.
Yeah, especially in eastern
Yeah,
Story County, they're getting
okay.
very popular, especially with Maxwell. We lost our Casey's. We have food trucks coming Sunday night and Monday nights right now. And they're doing really well. So people do enjoy the trucks.
We're all about it.
Which nights?
Huh?
Which nights are they going there?
Sunday and Monday nights. Yep.
Road trip?
It's like,
Now
okay, let's.
they're gonna set up at the Plunkett, the old elevator at Maxwell now. So.
Thank you.
Anything else about food trucks?
I think the changes look really
It
good.
looks
that we-
really
I'm-
simplified it a
yeah,
lot.
Really pleased
Thank
with
you.
that. You guys did good work on that.
yeah, that was mostly all Ray and Aaron. So thank you for
Yes.
taking the lead on those.
It's good.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. What's next?
All right, next we can talk about parklets. For the most part, I thought it all looked good. The one thing that I did notice in there, which this is subject to council approval anyways, is there's some talk about fees there. I don't necessarily think we need to have a fee associated with it, but we do need to have some sort of an inspection in place. That way we make sure it's applicable to everything that we're requiring, because there are quite a bit of different requirements for this to do a parklet, and we just want to make sure that everyone does it right. But
Jordan, I talked to a couple of the downtown business owners just to get their feedback on it and make sure they'd taken a look at this, to get a little perspective.
yeah,
Thought it looks good. General impressions were they were concerned about parklets and parking they see the advantages of them, but it's a trade-off and not losing those parking spots. Especially with gatherings and their new operation are actually going to have quite a few more people downtown. So she was a little concerned about that. One of the other concerns was, and I see other communities do the same thing where you have to remove your tables and chairs every night. I think that's primarily maybe a vandalism or theft thing. The downtown business owners weren't really sure that was an issue here and wondered if that was something that could be considered. There were some examples they found that cities do leave them there as long as they consent to let the public use them while they're not open. Someone could go sit down there at night if they want to.
Yeah, so in Oregon, they actually leave them there all night, but they lock them down so people can't steal them.
And I saw that. I think it was in there that you could attach them to the parklet.
Yeah.
So that you couldn't just walk off with them.
Yeah.
It was okay to do that.
Yeah, so I don't see an issue with any of those things. Some of that stuff would be really up to the council's decision anyways. It wouldn't be my decision. And then as far as, taking up the parking spaces, I definitely understand that. And that parking downtown has always kind of been an issue. So we could run across that. But this would be a permit side of things as well. So, the council would have to, or we would have to approve the permit side of things, and depending on how long we do it. So there are a lot of things that we need to work through, but yeah, thank you for bringing those to it. And if they have any suggestions on how we would be able to make it more feasible, then that would be great, because it'd be nice to get all this stuff.
It actually did kind of bring up a related issue was what are the regulations for, because some of them have tables on the sidewalk right now. And I didn't find it anyway where the regulations were on, how much sidewalk do you have to leave if you have tables out there? How many tables can you have? Can you put tables on the bump outs? I don't know that we've defined all of those things as well either.
I think the code says what, 3?
Yeah, there's nothing in the ordinance pertaining to our bump outs, and the parklets will be kind of considered a parklet or whatever.
Yeah, it's just related, but not necessarily specific to this.
But yeah, so there is, and I don't know the exact ordinance number, but in the ordinance pertaining to sidewalk provisions, you can't protrude less or more than 36 inches from the front of your building. And I don't know, obviously some of a lot of the construction planning happened before I was here. So I don't know if that played a role in why we extended the sidewalk by 2 or 3 feet or what, but I would think that 3 feet wouldn't necessarily have as much issue as it would have before we did the construction.
I agree. And I think they're kind of thinking, well, maybe they could have their cake and eat it too, if they can use more of our pretty wide sidewalks and not have to take up parking spots with a parklet. So that's just something
that might be something that maybe engineering and planning and zoning can evaluate if we can widen that in the code.
And I think we do need to utilize our bump outs more.
Yeah,
and we
absolutely.
need to, and we have wide sidewalks for a reason, and not every business is fortunate like Evie's where they have an indention to stick the tables at.
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
And the sidewalk is the same width as before. What changed was the
bricks.
banding is a foot narrower because cars are longer than they were when downtown was constructed. So the parking spaces are a foot deeper. That was the only dimension that changed.
It also fits with some of the things we saw tonight for design. Like, I see,
Some of the outdoor seating.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd like to incorporate.
Yeah,
some of
and
that.
To be able to incorporate.
as far as the bump outs go, I don't see that the parklets describe that as an eligible spot. So we were thinking about regulating it like a parklet. We might want to add that to the eligible location for our parklet to include the
We
bump
can
outs.
just wrap that into this as well. And
Which maybe people won't need it in the bump out because we may put furniture there anyway, but.
Yep.
So parklets, we're gonna allow the people to apply to take up a couple spots, 3 spots?
Yeah, a few spots. They would have to put that in their application on what they're planning on doing, how long they're going to be doing it, and things such as that. But yeah, the intent is basically to, at times, if there's an event, basically create extra area for people to sit outside, enjoy the weather, enjoy the venue. I can't remember what days it is. I want to say it's on Thursdays, but there's Poem at, is it Bricktown? Is it Thursdays that they have it, or Tuesdays or something?
Or when they have live music.
Yeah.
Around Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, and live music. So it'd be nice if, on Thursday nights, they had something portable. They could just go out there, roll something out, and people could sit outside, enjoy the weather, as well as enjoy the concert, the poem, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interest in using our outdoor space downtown a lot better than we are, and making it much more welcoming to folks to come spend time down here.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, with that being said, I think we need to look at some more solutions to move forward with this. Did you have more stuff?
Oh, that was the main part, Jordan.
Okay.
Well, and anything that happens downtown, especially if you're talking about an event like that, the parking lot at south of the United Methodist Church was designed as a courtesy lot to support what was happening on Main Street, except for when there's a funeral and then they put markers out.
Yeah.
And so as long as there's no, overnight parking, they would have to, as a tenant, I don't know what they would do about that, but I think a conversation with the trustees of the church, there's 25 parking places there. And, if we start to think about the corridor, Henry and I, after we were in Osage, we were checking out the wall with the plants on it, the flat wall, and thinking about that in Osage and what's like the pass through between, in Ames, between Main Street and the 4-hour free parking. It's that little garden thing. It's really kind of nice, but there's a little extra space just north of the Main Street office that if we could turn that wall into something that wouldn't be so hot, that the pass through, especially to Evie's spot, where people need all day parking to attend an event, would be perfect.
Kind of have to make it a lane so people understand.
Exactly.
There's some great examples of such things. Get Jefferson Park up today, and their alleys are fabulous. They connect everything.
Even Algona has some really cool alleys up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of a new trend is
It
to
is.
utilize the Baxter
Because right now,
buildings too.
Steve parks the truck, the state bank truck, so that nobody runs over the money machine.
Yeah.
I mean, the EMT,
ATM.
No, ATM, sorry. Sorry.
EMT
I was
would
talking about something else, yeah. But I just feel like there's
You
there's
could make
more
a cool
space
walkway
there.
yeah.
Yeah, and it just make it official and start to have a conversation, because they might even host folks that need another parking space for upstairs apartment. I don't know.
So kind of thinking about your signage thing earlier, are we going to have on that, or have you considered having like indicators for where parking is? Because if you're an out of towner, you don't necessarily know that there's these other places that you can park if the street's full.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that you had 2 different types of wayfindings that could be going downtown. So did that mean that you guys are willing to look at both those options, one or the other? Because I saw one of them was, the folded ones that you sit out, and then the other ones, similar to Jefferson, you have them up on the poles.
Yes.
I don't know if we were able to utilize the poles that we currently have, and then you could utilize the parklets for something else.
We're absolutely, like I said, this was more of a recommendation still. There's, much to work out with it. But yes, absolutely. It was mostly focusing on, like what you said, most of the people, getting them to that destination as quickly as possible. Parking was brought up because we do have that courtesy lot, and we also have the city lot across from the post office. And so much of that is just people don't know they're there.
Even the county lot after hours, we're talking about something that's
Absolutely.
happening on Thursday night, that's a block away.
And J and K are rarely full.
Yeah.
Well, to say nothing of our own lot here. I mean,
Yeah, our lots
Because
never
if you're talking
full.
about K and Sixth Street being center, there really is some possibility for parking if folks just.
So perhaps with some of these other options
Especially if you
really
need
well
to-
advertised and more utilized, you'd have a little more room for something that could park with it. if
Yeah.
somebody wanted.
And I know one thing we were gonna address was to allow there to be some short-term parking regulations in some spots downtown. I don't know if that was something that ended up, I didn't see a change in the code, but maybe doesn't need it.
We haven't worked too much on parking. It was something that we have been working on, but I think we wanted to wait to revamp that until more of the housing came available for the second level, because right now it is affecting some people, but I don't think it'll really start affecting until all that stuff is completed up on the second floor. And that's really when we're gonna have to start looking into that, especially like Augustus John's.
Right.
I mean, once
Yep.
he gets his stuff going, that's when we're probably gonna have to figure out
Yeah.
more parking. And that is something that, Chief and I do talk about. I wouldn't say very regular, but it is a pretty regular basis that we talk about that, because it is an issue. We want to be able to create, living downtown, but we prohibit parking certain hours during the day, which, I mean, it's kind of contradictory. So
Yeah,
we got to figure out that happy medium and where we can go with that. So I think we still have a lot of stuff to go through there on the actual parking side of things for it.
Well, and kind of what I was looking for is to have the authority for whether it's public safety or whatever, to designate certain spots downtown to be something like 15-minute spots. Because especially if we're adding parklets, we have a really successful event business now that causes our retail businesses to have trouble as far as they're getting people in and out.
Yeah.
So I think that's something, if we need something in the code to have that authority, I think we should do it while we're doing that chapter. That might be an Aaron question, if we need it in the code or if it's already something we can do.
I think it's something that we looked at, Mayor, and I think we probably should add a little bit of verbiage if we're gonna move forward with that.
That would be my request. I don't know where council is on it, but I think having the ability to do that while we're working on this section would be good timing for us to put it in there. And if we probably leave the code vague enough that we can designate short-term spots in the downtown district, then we could probably gives us flexibility to decide later.
Also, if you need some long-term 24-hour spots or something.
both ways,
Flexibility, yep.
short-term,
Yeah,
long-term.
we'll have the need for both.
We have parking issues and now we're gonna allow it to have even less parking.
Well, we don't necessarily have parking. The issue we have is you have people that come for an all-day event and take up the spots
All day.
in front of retail businesses rather than using.
He's talking about the parklets.
But I'm saying, we're gonna allow people to block off parking stalls that we're desperately needing already.
Part of it is for, the parklets are going to be used in the warm summer months, where I think if you have to park around the corner and walk around to get a sub or something like that, you're more likely to want to do it. Obviously, in the winter, people are going to be right in the door.
And obviously, this doesn't mean that
They're not
they
gonna
will
do
do
it.
it, but it just gives them the opportunity to do it if they wanted to do it
And I think
for a special
businesses
event or something.
are incentivized, because it's a spot right in front of
Somebody's
them.
using the sidewalk more than using
Yeah.
the parking stalls more.
I would see it more here, a business doing it, like Jordan said, for an event versus all summer long.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not too crazy about.
Because it's the spots in front of their own business they're potentially giving up.
Well, I think it also encourages, Jason, us to do what Barb said, and that's, let's identify our alternative parking. I mean, we have some big spots that we aren't using, so I think.
I think it's
We've also had business owners come and tell us that people weren't willing to walk around the block to get to their
Well,
business. when
My experience
downtown.
is often it's their own employees that are parking where the customers will.
We had a
park. I mean,
business
that's
owner
an issue.
specifically say that their business was down 70% because the people couldn't walk
Well,
far
that's,
enough, or
that's a
had to walk
problem.
too far to their business. Now we're talking about cutting even more parking. There's no right answer to this.
Well,
I'm not saying, I'm a guess, it just seems
Well,
like.
ultimately, we have to approve it anyway, based on their.
Well, and that's why I think if we're gonna do parklets, we need those short-term spots. So they're spaced throughout, they turn, people can run in and do their business real quick and they don't get,
Part of the whole strategy.
they don't get taken up. And part of it too, like to Sandy's point, is hopefully our businesses can help regulate their own employees to make sure that they park places that aren't the places that are.
To do, let me see others.
There's a park right in the street, right in front of their business
Exactly.
for all day long, and that doesn't help anyone either.
Yeah.
So it spells out in here that your parklet would have to be 150 feet from your business.
I think that would be pretty difficult to do.
Yeah.
Because they would probably be on the opposite side of the road.
So it's at 150 feet from their.
So,
business.
yeah, some of the distance wouldn't. Something along. It up a little bit.
Yeah, clear it up a little maybe.
Is it, how big is the spot? When it comes to the curb, between the lines, how much?
There's not a set formula, I don't believe. I think it's whatever the proposal is.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, right now,
How big
if
is
I
an
wanted
actual spot?
150 feet, how many parking places is that?
Oh,
Well, it'd be a bunch.
Well, I don't think it says you can have 150 feet, you just have to be within 150 feet of your business.
Okay.
There's probably,
It'd be close to your business. It can't be in front of your competitor's business, basically.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
The cooperation seems to be so prevalent right now with the Main Street effort. Maybe somebody could share park load, depending on what they're doing in there.
I think the secret to this is that we're going to approve these things one at a time anyway. So then we can look at 150 feet and all sorts of stuff.
if it becomes a problem, you can
Yeah.
change it.
Henry, I don't know, it might be worth
President, too.
sitting down and talking to a couple of the business owners and maybe making some recommendations.
Yep. The other thing, I know several Main Street communities have implemented parklets in the last year, last 2 years especially. That's something, we have our spring training this coming week. So all the directors will be together. That's something I can bring up specifically to them and see. Yep. I know some of them do have written policies and everything that go with that. So I could ask for some examples and forward that on to you all just to review and maybe look at, and I can communicate with some businesses too and discuss that a little bit further.
Not just restaurant ones either.
Yep, yes.
I wouldn't mind knowing, like, later in another month and a half or two, when those would be out, just doing a drive-by. We're tooling around too, so a list of those.
I believe Windsor Heights was one of the first communities to initiate this or start this. And I think that's where Aaron was able to get this ordinance from as well. So
Saw some similarities.
That's correct. We actually drafted the Windsor Heights one, so we kind of started from scratch. We couldn't find anything in Iowa. So we drew a lot from Minnesota because there's a lot of these in the Minnesota and Minneapolis region. So that's where a lot of this verbiage comes from. And obviously we just need to tailor it more towards Nevada's needs.
While you're asking for things, how about the vacancy? I know a lot of the Main Street communities have some pretty interesting ordinances around vacant buildings.
Yes.
And I know that's another thing that we talked about a little bit.
That's something, yep, I would absolutely ask them that, and any other things that we're kind of looking into that way. We'll have all 54 communities represented there, so it's a good time to pick brains and discuss some things.
Thank you.
okay, so it sounds like we have some work to do on the parklet stuff, but we can definitely work through that and tailor it a little bit more towards Nevada. Is there any other comments that I can write down or anything for the parklets? No? Okay. All right. Last on the list is the property maintenance and residential code. So we took quite a bit out of this. We took basically everything to do with the crime lease. We took out a lot of the stuff pertaining to the landlord slash tenant. And we really kind of kept it more simple. I think the original document was over 20 pages, and I think this one's only about 9 now, which is great. Really focuses on basically your standards, your substandard conditions, your water, your plumbing fixtures, your electricity, basically living situations, ceilings, roofs. That way it's protecting you for safety and stuff like that. But so we kind of took everything, a lot of the big stuff out, but we kept the essentials in there. Was there any questions or any other suggestions that we needed for this one, or did this one kind of look the way we were trying to initially get it to?
Well, it seems like you really took the comments in that we had at the first meeting, so
I'm
that seems like a
surprised that-
critical, and the fact that nobody's here, that's kind of.
Yeah, has this been presented to the
We're on the
public?
right
Like, have
track.
they had a chance to see this, and have you heard any feedback on it?
I know it's been posted the same as
Yeah.
the previous one that got everyone's attention.
Yeah, it was posted the same, and
Alex did a really good job
yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
And I know Ryan has reached out to, I believe, a majority of the people that were here for the first meeting, and he has not heard anything back from them since. So
Good or bad?
Yeah, good or bad.
It's pretty well summed up. A lot of their concerns about this were, I'll go there. A lot of the concerns were about giving the tenants more power over the renter, right? That's a big deal because the owners of the property are protecting their assets. The other big concern was price, about what this is going to cost them and affecting their bottom line. So we've worked through the numbers, things like that. It's a very reasonable number, and it's added up towards how many, properties they own. So it's tailored that way, instead of being an outrageous flat fee or, pennies. So it's nothing egregious. I typed it out for you and I can pass it along, but it's $25. And then once it goes into a duplex, then it's $5 per door. And then it goes on from there to adding to each additional door. If that makes sense. issues from the property owners in the area. So I think
So it says we're gonna conduct an inspection every 2 years.
that's correct, yes.
I don't know how many rental units we have overall. Is
We have a lot.
is that gonna turn into a giant project for somebody to?
Yeah, we're looking at it. So yeah, it's about time management, really.
Yeah.
So, and then working with.
Cause you can line it up with tenants and landlords and, yep.
Yeah, so it's nothing that's gonna take more than 10 minutes. Once after the first one, once they know what I'm looking for, once, we work with the tenants and things like that, it's not gonna be anything egregious or outrageous.
You think 2 years is the right interval?
Yes,
If we did any less, we'd have a really hard time doing that. Programs that we've looked into typically do it every 2 years to do that. I believe Ames is very similar to that one as well. And like what Ryan was saying, I think I would say probably the first year of doing this is going to be kind of tough for him, a struggle, but we'll all be able to help him through it. But I think after that, it'll be a pretty clear cut process for him and he'll be able to
And
get
I think
in.
there's kind of a checklist of what you're looking for. So I mean,
absolutely.
if the guy knows you're coming for the inspection, he's got the opportunity to go fix all that stuff.
Exactly. We're not trying to crush these guys, right? We're just trying to have a minimum standard of living, right? We don't want these rental properties that are hidden in the shadows, that are dilapidated properties that aren't safe for anyone to live in, right?
Or hoarder properties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but we also have a very healthy mixture of long-term tenants that we have in this town, and then we have short-term ones, right? So when the short-term ones have a lot of turnaround and they're destroying the property, that's not on the landlord, right? That's not their fault. So that's not something that's going to be held against them. But I don't want them to have a quick turnaround where things aren't being fixed, right? Because then you get rundown properties and it escalates from there. So.
Ryan, did Brenda share this with you?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that to have that self-inspection, to have that as part of the kind of the flow chart, so that because they know you're coming, they know when you're coming,
right.
And to be able to do that and it's a really concise checklist so that they're set.
Yeah.
Then the 10 minutes could really be.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to be.
I want to be able to work fluidly with them, right? I want to see their assets, continue to be assets for them and not a hindrance. And these inspections aren't going to be a surprise to them. I'm not kicking in doors. This is time that we've set aside to go through the property to make sure everything's being maintained and held accordingly. So.
Well, and actually, it's good for everybody. It's good for the landowner, the property owner as well, because we're helping them maintain the integrity of their properties. So
exactly.
I think that to me is the vein we want to present it, like we're not the bad guys.
No. Nope. And we're going to be looking at common space areas. We're not hunting down the renters either. We're not trying to snoop through their items. The checklist absolutely does not include going through every one of their drawers, right? Like that's not the point of this. Nor am I going to take the time to do that. That's insane. So like I said, it's a minimum standard. And I don't think that was portrayed in the first time when we initially saw this. And I think it was, but I think what everybody else interpreted of it was not, right? So we had that miscommunication. And taking it from 40 pages to 9, I think we've really defined that to help the renters as well as the owners. So, any other questions?
Thanks for your work with
Yeah,
us.
appreciate it.
I think we've come along.
It's been a great project, so we're moving along in the right way, I think.
And thank you for that report, Brenda. I think that was very helpful.
I love the
So,
report.
Yeah, good info.
I don't know if council has any other questions about that, but it was very well done. Okay.
I've been waving it around in other places that I'm in.
Okay, anything else about the ordinance changes we need to cover? Jordan's shutting down his computer, so I think he's done.
No, I just don't need my computer. I didn't need it the last half hour, so.
Okay.
Well, good work.
I'm kind of old
For
fashioned.
making it happen.
I like
It's been a long time in
my
coming.
face.
Thank you.
That looks good.
Yeah, we had a lot of good help. You know, Erin helped us out. I mean, with all this, we couldn't have done it without her and.
Somebody has to tackle it though.
Not a work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so what's next step with these? I know they'll obviously have to come back one more time, but are we probably just getting them back one more time to start the readings? Is that the plan? Or are we doing another work session?
If we're okay with the property maintenance and residential rental code, we can start going through that process and getting approved. We just, basically, we'll just have to have everything else approved before we send everything in to get it codified. Because we only really want to do that once.
Okay.
Is it the will of the council to take these big ones with the major changes all separately? Or I think originally we thought about doing all of the revisions in one full swoop, but it seems like maybe there's some wish to do it piece by piece.
Like we could approve that rental property tonight.
I don't think it hurts, even if they're on the same agenda, to call it out separately. It'll take us a couple more minutes, but for the public, it'll be listed separately on the agenda and make it a little more transparent.
Idea.
Yeah.
That way, if they have specific feedback, it can be a lot more
Focus.
Targeted.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, there's a lot in this code that's just cleanup that could probably all be done together, but these that are all brand new sections, I like the idea of doing them separately.
Okay,
Ditto.
sounds like a plan. So we'll probably have a cleanup item and then each separate, the big separate items, the new sections.
Jordan, has there been talk about the vacant property code?
We haven't had anyone bring that up. Have you, Ryan? No? Yeah, so we haven't brought that up, but we haven't really talked about that a bit. I would really like to bring that to our next council meeting and have that as a work session, because I think it'll be probably highly controversial, but it's also extremely important that we need to work through.
That's when Henry's
City.
gonna get the scoop. I know Main
Where
Street's been
is
talking
that
to me
right
about-
now? What chapter is that in right now?
Vacant building, currently we do not have
Doesn't
that.
exist.
It's a new ordinance that we are creating, yep.
It's 159 is the new chapter number.
Sounds like another work session
It's an
and
important one, I think.
get the other ones moving when they're ready. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Well, call the work session closed. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, you bet. Have a good week.
Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you. We will.
I hope you get out of here, Steve.
Yeah, me too.